My wife wanted half of everything in the divorce. Turns out none of it was mine. I'm 25 and I just started my first real job a few months ago, working in my family's business. My parents were incredibly supportive, and as their only child, I had always known they trusted me with everything. My life seemed to be on the perfect track, newly married, a dream honeymoon, and a promising career ahead. My wife and I had recently returned from our honeymoon, a luxurious trip to a tropical paradise. It was a blend of romance and adventure, complete with guided tours, scenic drives, and exotic beaches. At least that's what I thought. After returning home, I spent an evening going through the photos and videos we'd taken. Among them were clips from the rental car we used, a habit I picked up from my father to always document rental vehicles for any potential disputes about damages. What I found turned my world upside down. The video wasn't anything I had expected. Instead of scenic drives or candid moments, there she was, my wife, completely naked and entangled with the travel guide we'd hired. The footage was explicit and the location, the same car we rented while I had been at the hotel taking care of last-minute bookings for the next day. I froze, my stomach nodding as I clicked through more files. It wasn't a one-time thing. There were several clips, all showing the same pattern. While I was busy, she was sneaking off with him. The betrayal was beyond anything I could fathom. This wasn't just infidelity, it was during what was supposed to be the most sacred and cherished time of our lives. That night, I didn't confront her immediately. I needed time to process and think. Everything we had, I realized, wasn't truly ours. The house we lived in? It was owned by my father. The car she used? Registered under the company's name. Even the credit cards she flaunted? They were linked to accounts in my father's name. The only thing that was genuinely mine was the $25,000 I'd saved from freelancing gigs during my studies. She didn't know any of this. She thought we were building a life together, sharing assets. But the reality was that I hadn't even started earning a formal salary. My parents wanted me to focus on learning the ropes of the family business first. As much as the betrayal stung, I saw an opportunity to expose her for what she was and protect myself in the process. The next day, I began gathering everything I needed. First, I backed up the videos to a secure drive, making multiple copies in case she tried to destroy them. I then consulted a family lawyer who was a close friend of my father. I didn't tell my parents just yet. I wanted a solid plan before involving them. The lawyer assured me that since everything was under my father's name, she had no claim to any of it. In fact, her demand for half of our assets in the event of a divorce would backfire spectacularly. But first, I needed to confront her. That evening, I casually asked her about the honeymoon. "What was your favorite part?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. She smiled, her face lighting up. "Oh, everything. The beaches, the food, the drives with the guide. It was all amazing." "The guide, huh?" I said, raising an eyebrow. "You seem to really enjoy his company." Her smile faltered. "Well, yeah, he was helpful." "Why?" I didn't answer. Instead, I pulled out my phone and played one of the videos. Her face turned pale as she watched herself on screen. "Care to explain this?" I asked, my voice cold. Her excuses were immediate. "It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen," she cried. "I was drunk, and he took advantage of me." I shook my head. "Don't insult my intelligence. This wasn't a one-time thing. You knew exactly what you were doing." She broke down, sobbing and begging for forgiveness. But her tears did nothing to move me. I told her I wanted a divorce and that she'd be hearing from my lawyer. That's when her demeanor shifted entirely. "You can't do this to me," she screamed. "I gave up everything to be with you. You owe me." "Owe you?" I said, laughing bitterly. "Everything we have isn't even mine. It's my father's. You won't be getting a single cent." Her face twisted with rage. "I'll fight you in court. I'll make sure I get what I deserve." "Go ahead and try," I said, standing firm. "You'll regret it." Little did she know, my father was already in the loop. After consulting with the lawyer, I showed him the videos. He was livid, not just at her betrayal, but at the audacity of her entitlement. He immediately revoked her access to the house and credit cards, and we began the process of legally removing her from everything tied to the family's name. She realized this quickly when her cards were declined, and she was locked out of the house the next day. That's when the threats began. The very next morning, I received a barrage of text messages from her. They ranged from begging for forgiveness to outright threats. One of them read, "If you think you can throw me out like trash, you're wrong. I'll tell everyone about this, and you'll regret it." I wasn't surprised. She had always been manipulative, but this time, she was outmatched. Every piece of leverage she thought she had was already countered. Still, I decided to play it smart. I didn't respond to her texts and forwarded them to my lawyer instead. He assured me they'd be useful if she tried to file a frivolous claim in court. Later that day, she tried to storm into my office at the family business. I was in a meeting with my father and a few of the senior staff when the receptionist called to warn me. "She's here, and she's causing a scene," the receptionist whispered. I stepped outside to see her yelling, demanding to speak to me. "You think you can lock me out of my house?" she screamed. "You don't get to make decisions without me." Calmly, I replied, "It's not your house. It's not even my house. Everything you're fighting for doesn't belong to either of us." Her face turned red. "You're lying. I'm your wife. I'm entitled to half. Let's leave that to the courts to decide," I said, stepping back into the office and signaling security to escort her out. That evening, I sat down with my parents to explain everything. My father, who had always been level-headed, was furious. She thought she could pull this off and walk away with what we've worked for. She has no idea who she's messing with. My mother, though shocked, offered a more compassionate perspective. "You deserve better than this," she said. "We'll make sure she doesn't get away with it." With her full support, I felt more confident than ever. My father's legal team began drafting the divorce papers, ensuring every loophole was closed. Meanwhile, I started gathering any additional evidence that could strengthen my case. As the days went by, her antics grew increasingly desperate. She tried reaching out to mutual friends, spinning the narrative that I was abusive and controlling. Thankfully, most of them knew me well enough to see through her lies. Some even came forward with stories of how she had been bragging about her freedom during our honeymoon. A freedom that, in hindsight, was clearly her affair with the travel guide. Then came her ultimate play. She filed for divorce and demanded half of everything. In her filing, she claimed emotional abuse and financial control, accusing me of denying her access to our assets. What she didn't realize was that her claims were as weak as her loyalty. During the first court hearing, my lawyer presented the evidence. The videos, the texts, and the financial records proving that nothing was in my name. The judge was unimpressed with her arguments, especially after hearing about her infidelity. Her lawyer tried to pivot, claiming that the videos were an invasion of privacy. My lawyer countered with the fact that the footage was legally obtained from a rental vehicle for documentation purposes. The real turning point came when my father testified. "The asset she's referring to, our house, our business, none of it belongs to my son yet. He's still an intern, learning the ropes. She has no legal claim to any of it." Her lawyer looked defeated. She, on the other hand, looked like she wanted to scream. Outside the courtroom, she approached me. "You've ruined my life," she hissed. "You'll regret this." I stared at her, unflinching. "You did this to yourself. Enjoy the freedom you were so desperate for." Her downfall didn't stop there. After the divorce proceedings, I made sure the videos and her behavior were known to her family and close friends. I didn't actively smear her reputation, but I didn't hold back when people asked why we separated. Word spread quickly, and soon, even her own family began to distance themselves from her. She tried reaching out to me one last time, claiming she wanted to make amends. I ignored her. By then, the divorce was finalized, and she walked away with nothing, not even sympathy from those who once supported her. With the divorce finalized, I thought that chapter of my life was closed, but the aftermath of her actions continued to ripple. Her reputation was in tatters. The travel guide, Her partner in the affair had already been fired from his agency after the scandal became public knowledge. Turns out, I wasn't the only one who had recordings. Another couple we had befriended on the trip had witnessed her flirting with the guide and shared their own videos when the rumors reached them. The agency, fearing liability, terminated him immediately. She was left with no allies. Her family, once staunchly on her side, turned cold after realizing the extent of her deceit. Her parents even called me to apologize, admitting they had been misled by her fabricated stories about me. Had we known sooner, we wouldn't have supported her actions, her father said during the call. While I appreciated the sentiment, I made it clear that their apologies didn't change the damage done. As for me, life began returning to normal. My parents, ever supportive, encouraged me to focus on my career. They insisted that I move back into the family home temporarily to regain stability, but I politely declined. I needed space to rebuild my life independently. My father, however, took one final step to ensure my protection. He restructured the family business to place even more of the assets under his direct control. "We'll transfer everything to you in due time," he said, "but for now, let's make sure no one else can ever pull a stunt like this again." Months later, she made one last attempt to worm her way back into my life. She showed up unannounced at the office, looking disheveled and desperate. "I've lost everything," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know where else to go." I didn't even let her finish. "You made your choices," I said, stepping past her. Live with them, security escorted her out, and that was the last time I saw her. Now, a year later, I can finally say I've moved on. I'm thriving in the family business, having earned my first official promotion. The lessons I learned from this ordeal have made me stronger and more discerning in my relationships. Trust is something I no longer take for granted. If there's one takeaway from this story, it's this: entitlement and betrayal have consequences, and sometimes those consequences are poetic justice. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them, so please leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more stories like this one.